right, cool.
Okay.
Representative Schatzline, thank you for joining me here at the Texan.
It's an honor. Always an honor to be with the Texan.
Oh, thank you. Well, we just had Abraham George elected as RPT chair.
Yes.
So tell me, for you, what does that mean for the Republican Party moving forward?
That's great. I think I endorsed Abraham early on. Abraham's been a good friend. We've known each other for a few years now. And, Abraham stands for the American dream. Abraham stands for someone who is going to back our future president, President Trump. And what I found is year after year at the GOP convention, I've seen our party moving into a more conservative space. And I think it's just indicative of the fact that our representatives, some of our Congress, some of our elected officials, and many of our Senate, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, all these guys, they are carrying the party closer towards the right. And I think it's a healthy place as really, we see the Democratic Party moving further and further to the left. And it's no longer a party of common sense, but the Republican Party, what I believe, is moving so far to the right in a good way that we're actually coming back to family values. We're actually coming back to faith, family, and freedom. And so I think Abraham is a clear representation of that, and really a representation of the party wants someone who's going to speak the truth and is going to fight for truth, even if it ruffles feathers. And I think that's who he's going to be.
Nice. And, we have runoff elections coming up.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of incumbents lose in the primary. What does that mean moving forward for the Texas Legislature?
Well, we've got a way more conservative House coming together. I've been a part of a small coalition of guys who have, quote unquote, broke the rules a little bit and endorsed against sitting Republican incumbents. And, we were warned. That's me. I'll just name names. Me, Tony Tinderholt, Brian Harrison, and Steve Toth started endorsing against incumbents because, in my opinion, and those guys too, if you're going to carry the Republican name, you need to uphold the Republican values. You need to fight for the GOP priorities. You need to make sure that you're not making backroom deals with Democrats. And you need to stop, muting conservatives inside of the Texas House. And so we started on a tour, and we went around Texas, and we fought for, people like Shelley Luther, who's going to be an absolute warrior in the Texas House. People like Brent Money, who's going to be a fighter for school choice. People like Mike Alcott, that stood up against, really with Governor, and stood up and said, hey, these people that are representing our communities do not uphold the values that we elected them to uphold. And so I'm excited. I think you're going to see a new wave of conservatism in the Texas House. I'm more excited about the 89th session than I've ever been about any session, because I think they're going to see that it's not business as usual, where I think we're going to ban Democrat committee chairs. I think we are going to come in and get a speaker who's actually going to uphold the values and not make backroom deals with Democrats. I think we're going to get rid of our parliamentarians, one of which worked in the Obama White House. I think this is going to be a session to remember.
Well, you touched on a few things there that you're looking forward to in the 89th session. There was some big things that did pass during the 88th.
Sure.
We saw gender mod, we saw HB 900.
Yep.
What are some other things that you're looking forward to in the 89th session?
That's great, and you're right. Banning gender modification for minors, huge. The Save Women's Sports Act, huge. But the reality is that I think the grassroots, and I think the Republican Party as a whole, is tired of us tooting our own horn for doing the common sense thing. To me, banning gender modification for minors was not really just this massive victory. It was really just common sense. How have we not done this already? To me, it's the lowest bar we could set. It's just to say, hey, we're not going to let children be mutilated. It's time for us to start cutting spending, doing real conservative policy, making sure that we're not expanding government in this next session. This last session we expanded government and raised that budget in record numbers. I want to see budget cuts. I want to see us go on the offensive in the pro-life movement and not just talk about abortion, but talk about lowering the barriers to adoption. I want us to be the reformers that come in, and Texas needs to lead the way. Part of that is banning, our foreign enemies from owning Texas land. That's a major deal right now that we have to do. I want to see us actually be put on a path to eliminate property taxes. I want to see Gen Z and Gen Alpha, my kids, I want to see them be able to own Texas property. And right now we have our foreign enemies owning that property in ways we can't. I want to see a ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying, where our cities and local municipalities are no longer working against us and working against us using our tax dollars to do it. And so there's a lot of things that we need to get done. I think what needs to happen up top is we need a speaker who's going to decentralize power. We need to rewrite the rules of the Texas House, go back to maybe some of the earlier stages of the Texas House where there were less rules, and just go back to letting the members govern without making deals with the minority party in the way that we have in the last few sessions.
Right. So you talk about all these great things that you'd like to do in the 89th session. And you said you're a part of this small coalition during the 88th that was sort of shaking things up.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that's the nicest way of putting it.
Well, how do you, in the 89th, begin to build unity between members?
Great
Because
question.
in order to pass these big bills, you need coalitions between people to come together. So how do you build the unity?
It's a great question. So, I'm one of the original, drafters of the contract with Texas. And so I was so excited about it. And the thing I'm really excited about is we have this coalition of 25 names. Now, granted, I think it's 15. I could be slightly off. 15 that will be in office. And, we've got another 10 that are in the process of a runoff right now, 9 or 10. And all that being said, I believe the last number is 25 signatures on there. Well, that number is strong. And so we're no longer a group of 4. We're a group of potentially incoming 25 that are willing to come together. What I truly believe will happen is once we, and in my prediction, what I hope is that Dade Phelan does not win his reelection. I've been a proud supporter of David Covey. And if Dade doesn't win, what I hope is that we can get together as a Republican caucus, reframe how we're doing this, stop ceding power to Democrats, come together. And I'm here to tell you, me and the rest of the signers, we're willing to work with anybody. We're willing to work with absolutely anyone who wants to push for the GOP priorities and not cede power back to a social Marxist party. And so where we are is, I think we get through Tuesday, we see where we're at with the numbers from the signers on our contract with Texas, and then we come together with other Republicans and say, okay guys, we just went to war. How do we come together to go to war against the true enemy, which is the Democrat Party going into the 89th legislative session?
Right. And before we wrap up here, you mentioned there is the runoffs going on. There is the Dade Covey, Dade Phelan race. What is sort of the message that you want to send to people who might be headed to the polls in a runoff in a big election like that?
Yeah.
What would you want to say to them?
So for David Covey's race specifically, or any runoff?
For that race specifically.
So for that race specifically, what I would say is I came in, I've never voted for Dade Phelan for a speaker, and I don't plan to. I came in and watched a man who wants to tout conservative victories. And those conservative victories, many of them are the very bottom of the ring of what we could have done. I'll give you an example. HB 20 was the greatest border security bill we could have ever passed. Well, the parliamentarian ruled in a point of order that was given by a Democrat and turned around to our speaker on the House floor, the most important bill of last session, and he simply said, I would rule the point of order be sustained. And in that moment, Dade Phelan had a choice. Is he going to put the people of Texas above his lobby and special interest groups? Is he going to put the people of Texas above his position with the Democrats? And what I saw is that he turned around and ruled that point of order and killed the greatest border security bill we have ever seen in the state of Texas. And so if you want secure Texas borders, if you want actual conservative policies to get across the finish line without backroom deals with the Democrats, if you want to reframe the Texas House so that conservatives can actually get things done and we can make the Texas House Republican once again, then you got to vote for David Covey. He's our only hope of doing that.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.